let's go. All out of state, doing it then they never seen that. Ain't fat, Joe, and snap your fingers, then you lean back. All out of state, doing it then they never seen that. Ain't fat, Joe, and snap your fingers, then you lean back.
Hula, and welcome back to Viti Vibes, the show where inspired youth inspire youth. I'm your director and host, Shannon Permal. Viti Vibes TV is the show that brings you education, issues, and conversation about youth in today's society. Being a youth is by no means easy, so we're here to talk about the many challenges and share our experiences. This October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Did you know that last year 75 people were diagnosed with breast cancer every day? It is the most common cancer and second leading cause of cancer death amongst Canadian women. This is your reminder that one way of taking care of your health is to monitor it by getting regular checkups. October has been filled with so many special occasions, including Fiji Independence Day. We hope that you're able to take a moment to remember the history of Fiji and celebrate Fiji's 51st Independence Day this October 10th at 2021. That being said, our team here at Viti Vibes also would like to wish a happy Navratri to all of you celebrating. For those of you that don't know, Navratri is a 9-day Hindu religion observance that worships goddess Mata Durga. This is one of the most significant festivals for followers of the Hindu religion and is celebrated widely in October every year just before Diwali. Up next, I'm joined by this week's special guest, Neha Singh, in our studio. Hello, and welcome back to Viti Vibes TV. I'm your host, Shannon Permal. Today, in our studio, we have a very special guest, and her name is Neha Singh. So, hello, Neha.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, actually. I'm very excited to have you here. I love having people from different sectors and everything, and you actually are a mental health and addictions and youth counselor. And so I think I'm very excited to actually speak to you more about this because you have the expertise, you got the knowledge and experience. So I definitely think you have something very valuable to share with our audience today. And I know mental health is something I'm super passionate about, and I assume you are too, given that you're in the field. Yeah, but anyways, I'll let you start off actually and let the audience know a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Neha Singh. As Shannon mentioned, I like to call myself a mental health professional because I do branch out in a bunch of different things. So I am a youth counselor, a drug and alcohol counselor as well. I work a lot with different people from different walks of life in my field, and I'm also actually a mental wellness coach as well. So I run my own business for that too. So as you can imagine, I deal with different issues every single day. Most of my practice is based off of people that have experienced trauma in their past or present, which have actually led them to where they are now. So trying to get them to learn different coping mechanisms and be able to have a full, happy, fulfilled life that they desire to have. So that's kind of where my passion lies. Youth is really where my heart is. I genuinely feel that the key to all these problems when it comes to addictions is in our youth, and it's very important that we protect them and that we start giving them the importance and help them with the trauma that they're going through, and stop thinking of them as little children that don't understand anything. They understand from the womb. And it's actually my mission and my goal for my lifetime to bring that awareness out there to really empower and inspire our youth. So yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
That's awesome. That was such a great intro.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you really condensed a lot of information in that. That's great. So first thing I want to ask you is what kind of led you down the path of becoming a mental health professional?
Well, as most Fijians would agree, a lot of our childhood is trauma, surrounded, right? We've gone through a lot of trauma in our life, and no disrespect to any of our elders or our parents, they were doing what they knew was right at the time. But we're older now, and we're able to have the power to make the change. So that was a big part of it. Actually, a couple years back, I was in such a bad place. I was suicidal, I was depressed. I really didn't have much of a desire to, go on. I was just waking up for the sake of waking up,
Yeah.
not because I had an ambition. I literally failed my last semester of school. Like, my GPA, I left with 1.07 or something. It was miserable. And, you know, it was just bad. Like, it was dark. And I was very grateful to have certain people that actually held my hand and supported me and gave me, you know, direction as to where to go. And so I started my journey in self-healing, and it really changed me for the better. And then I found out I was pregnant, and that was, I would say, was my turning point. That's when I was really like, okay, I'm having a child now. Like, I want to be sure that, you know, my child doesn't grow up with the same challenges that I grew up with. I mean, I'm not going to deny the fact that, you know, I'm not going to be a perfect parent. I know that. But what I can do in my power to make that a difference for her, I'm going to do. So I actually had my daughter during COVID, the day we went into lockdown.
Oh, wow.
So it was fun, to say the least. So I just decided, I was like, well, school's all online. So I just went and I registered for my program, and I've been in school ever since. My daughter was 3 months when I started full-time school. So I've been full-time momming, full-time schooling, and then I started my business in the middle of it too. So
And all during COVID.
all during COVID.
That's insane, yeah.
So that's really, you know, what pushed me into becoming a mental health professional. And when I was doing my classes, I actually realized a lot of stuff that I was doing wrong. You know, like, I was being a judgmental person. I didn't understand a lot of these people's livelihoods and choices, and it really opened my eyes and made me more of a you know, how do I put this? It made me more aware of myself and what I say, and to be more understanding and open.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on so many things there, but one thing that really stood out is how you mentioned that being a mom, that you wanted to do better for your child. And I think that's something that's so important because, like you said, like, our parents, like, no blaming any of our elders, but they did what they knew, right? It was literally survival of the fittest out here. Coming to a new country, like, that's a struggle in itself that we won't ever know, right? But being able to fix that intergenerational trauma that we experience, I think that's such a key thing, especially. And that's why I'm so happy to hear, like, you're, like, basically, like, the youth of today helping the youth of tomorrow kind of thing. And so that's super cool that you're actually doing this. So I want to actually talk a little bit more about culture and mental health. So how do you think, in your experience, culture ties in with mental health?
Well, I mean, I'll kind of specify it more towards our culture, and that's what this is essentially about. Our culture, I would say, is not very open when it comes to mental health. You know, the second someone says, you know, they're depressed or they're suicidal, there's a stigma that's attached to it. Right away, it's like, oh, well, you know, that person's kid is going through the same thing, and look at them and look at you. Like, it becomes a comparison thing, right? And that doesn't make the kid feel any better. That makes you feel worse. And, I mean, in my experience, I went through the exact same thing. You know, comparison was a huge part of my upbringing, and I hated it. And it's detrimental, honestly. And it just... it makes you not want to succeed. Like,
absolutely,
you know, like, most children have high ambitions of what they want to do in their life, and the more you dumb it down, or you say, you know, you can't do this, or this kid's doing this, or your intellect level is here, it destroys the kid bit by bit. Sorry. And eventually, when they're older, they don't know who they are anymore, and that's when the identity crisis part of it comes in. And as well as the cultural part of it, you know, being immigrants, not immigrants, but immigrant children, you deal with the bicultural issues, right? You go to school and you're taught one thing, and then your friends are allowed to do something else, and then that also adds more of an identity crisis. So then you get older and you're like, who am I? What am I doing? You don't feel that self-love. And one big aspect of our culture that I genuinely feel needs to change is the affection that, you know, parents show to their children. You need to be verbal about it, as well as you need to be like, you need to show it. You need to give your kids a hug.
They're very indirect. Parents are so indirect about it.
100%,
They'll just, like, because I know firsthand, like, I'll always be the one, like, my mom. I'm sorry, Mom, like, but this is true. Like, every time I'd go to her, like, with the report card, like, good grades and everything, like, I work my butt off for these grades, and it's like, look, Mom, look what I did, right? And you're always trying to be, like, the best, because the same thing, like, you're always being compared to other people, so it's like, no, I'm gonna be the best, right?
Yeah.
You're always, like, trained to do that. And then when I show my mom the report card, she's like, good for you. And it's like, bro, what? What are you talking
I
about?
worked so hard for this.
Yeah, and it's just like, good. Okay, like, I guess good for me, but like, what about, like, hello? But
100%, yeah. And then, like, I think a big thing too is there needs to be that stigma of it being shameful that you need help needs to go away.
Oh, 100%.
There is nothing wrong with asking for help. If
Mm-hmm.
you genuinely need it, go ask a person. You shouldn't have to hide. You shouldn't have to tell your cousins, Mosis, Mosas, like all these people that, oh no, I'm fine. Like, you should openly be able
Yeah.
to say, like, no, I'm not fine.
Yeah.
But I'm getting the help that I need.
Mhm.
That empowers the person.
yeah, absolutely. That's so true. So you actually recently were working in a drug and mental health recovery center?
Yeah, so it was a detox and treatment center.
Okay, yeah. So I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit more about this, your experiences there, seeing and being around everybody, like, victims of addiction. How does addiction and mental health go hand in hand?
Well, 90% of these people that I worked with, all of their trauma started when they were younger.
Mhm.
They went through something, some sort of traumatic event or a series of traumatic events. And unfortunately for them, because of their environment, their social status, a number of things, they didn't actually have the right coping mechanisms that's required to be able to, holistically go through the experience. And they didn't have that resilience factor, which is nothing wrong. Not everyone is able to have that. And they didn't have the right role models either, right? So they kind of just drown themselves in that trauma. So in order to run away from that, that's when they turn to substances. Some people's choices is drugs, some people's choice is alcohol, but essentially whatever gives them that high to run away. Because really what it is, when you're taking a drug, you're feeling a hug. That's what that feeling is.
Yeah.
You're getting that love, that affection, that void that you're not having in your everyday sober life. You're getting that when you're high, essentially, right? So that's why these people chose their substances, is because it gave them that sense of belonging, which obviously ties into that mental health aspect of it. So when these people come into treatment, and some actually don't have a choice, they get put there by courts.
Okay.
But it becomes a challenge. You're right. And I was in a treatment center with women, so it was like dealing with teenagers, essentially.
Oh, wow.
So you're reteaching them everything. You're telling them, reprogramming that recording in their brain that says, I'm worthless, to I am worthy. And you're teaching them the right ways to deal with trauma, and you're essentially giving them that empowerment to be able to be resilient. It is unfortunately true that, most people that do go into treatment unfortunately relapse at some point in time. But the thing is, relapse is a part of recovery.
The healing process, yeah.
It is, and there's no shame attached to it. Obviously, in a perfect world, you don't want that,
Yeah.
but it does happen, and you need to be very accepting.
Absolutely.
And so these women that I was dealing with, they weren't easily trusted. Sorry, they didn't want to trust the person that they were dealing with or speaking to. A lot of them were reluctant to join in the programs and do things, but they tried, and they were there for a reason. And it's very heartbreaking to see sometimes when you hear these people's stories. It makes you really, look at yourself and look within and realize that, like, your life is not that bad.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's remarkable. Like, there's such kind souls, and before I was the type of person that would judge people that did drugs and alcohol. Like, I would judge people that were homeless and all these things, but being there, being face first with speaking to these people and getting a chance to take a step in their lives, they're humans, and they just need love, and
Absolutely.
and they need to know that they're accepted.
That's wonderful, like, that you said that. And I didn't know you actually worked in, like, an all-women center, so that's super cool. I want to ask, like, with the young girls that you did get to see work with, what was, like, the more common addictions that you've seen with them? Like, with youth particularly, I guess.
Unfortunately, most of the people that I did deal with there were mothers. There were older women. I didn't really get a chance to deal with many younger women.
Okay.
But mind you, most of their addictions started when they were teenagers.
Okay, yeah.
So I would say it was half and half. Like, some really turned to alcohol. But when it comes to an actual, like, drug of choice, most of them did, like, cocaine.
Oh, okay.
Very few did heroin, at least in my time there.
Yeah.
That's what I saw, but those were kind of the more popular ones that I saw.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. And it, like, there's so many different factors that go into this, like how they end up in that path. And I think a lot of people need to know this too. Like, you never know what a person has gone through to end up in the position that they are in. Like, even us here today, like, no one will know the struggles that I've been through, the struggles you've been through, and, like, how we ended up here. Sometimes I don't even know, but, like,
Exactly.
we all have, like, a backstory. We all have our own walk of life, and sometimes it's not a pretty walk of life, and sometimes there's things along the way that we regret as well. But it is what it is, right? And you can only just try and look forward. And I really appreciate the fact that you're in a field where you're able to help these people try and move forward with their lives. So I really commend you on the work that you do. Just to wrap up today's interview, because we are running out of time, I feel like I could talk to you forever about this because I'm super passionate about this topic. But do you have any, like, word of advice or last message for our viewers, and maybe a way that people that know someone that's struggling with addictions or mental health issues can be able to help the person?
Yeah, so my one word of advice is, if you know somebody who is struggling, who may be going through any sort of mental health crisis, that may be struggling with addictions, find them help. BC211.com is actually an amazing resource. It will tell you all the resources in your area with counseling, addiction services, etc., etc. And it also includes free services as well. It's an amazing resource. If you definitely are struggling yourself, reach out. There's no shame in it. There's nothing wrong with it. You deserve to be loved. You are worthy. You deserve to go through life feeling empowered and feeling like you wake up with a purpose. And you're not alone. There are so many people out there that will hold your hand and support you and give you a hug. I'm giving you a hug right now through the camera. And just know that you're here for a reason, and you're amazing. So that will be my word of advice. Love people, be kind, and have an amazing day.
Thank you so much. That was such a great ray of sunshine in this weather that we're having today.
I know, right?
Like, that was so nice. It really did feel warm inside. But thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all that you've done in your career. And you're always welcome to come back. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And that wraps up for today's interview, and we'll be right back after this. Neha is a mental health, addictions, and youth counselor. Today, she is here to talk about culture, mental health, and addictions. Thank you, Neha, for joining me today.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tasha Chand, a neuropsychology student and mental health advocate, here to talk to you today about therapy and the stigma surrounding mental health on today's mental mindset. So, whenever I talk about therapy, I like to use the analogy of therapy is for the mind as the gym is for our body. So therapy is for our mental health as the gym is for our physical health. You know, have you ever wondered, why is going to the gym so normalized, but going to therapy isn't? How many times have you found yourself in this situation, or someone else, where if someone mentions, I'm going to be going to therapy, usually the first initial response is, oh, is everything okay? Are you okay? But guess what? There doesn't have to be anything necessarily wrong for someone to go to therapy. As I've mentioned, just like how we go to the gym to keep ourselves healthy, to keep our bodies healthy, physically healthy, to maintain it, you go to therapy to keep your mind healthy, to keep all your emotions, your feelings, everything in check, and to know how to deal with certain things, with certain situations when things happen, how to deal with it in a healthy manner, because that is very important. When we go through triggers or when we go through events in our life, it is very important to know how to deal with them in a healthy manner. Another big misconception about therapy is that after 1 or 2 sessions, it'll all get better. All you need is 1 or 2 sessions. And to that, going back to the gym analogy, I like to say, when we go to the gym, right? If we want to, let's say we're going for weight loss, right? So let's say we're trying to lose weight. if you want to sustain that weight loss, even to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard. You have to put in a lot of effort and a lot of work to see those results. So, similar to that, going into therapy 1 or 2 times is simply not enough to see long-lasting results emotionally and mentally. It takes time to work through your triggers, your childhood traumas, just traumas in general. Many times when we go to therapy and the therapist starts digging deeper and deeper into the stuff that we're going through or what we're telling them, you'll often find that a lot of stuff that we are dealing right now as adults stems from things that we went through as a child, or things that we experienced or that we saw go on around us as a child. So digging deeper into that and fixing all of it and trying to come out on the other side is going to take time. So please be patient. If you are thinking about going to therapy, or if you are in therapy right now, please do not get discouraged. If you're not seeing results in a couple sessions, it does take time. And another thing is that you have to put in work and effort for therapy to work out for you. And again, similar to like when we go to the gym, if we just go to the gym and we don't do anything, we just show up and we just stand around, right? We're not going to see the results that we want to see. So similar to that, going to therapy, we need to put in that work. So when we try to figure out our emotions and our feelings and how to handle it and how to go through life about it by ourselves, that's putting a lot of pressure on ourselves. And that's taking up a lot of mental mind space on how do I figure this out? Or when you get frustrated, right? When you yourself come up with something of, okay, I think I'm going to tackle this issue in this way, and it doesn't work out that way. Time and time again, it can get very frustrating for us, right? In turn, impacting our mental health. So instead, when you go to therapy, a therapist helps and guides you through that process and just takes that weight off your shoulders. So what you have to do is just put in that work of trying to figure out and working through your emotions and going through that process. So also know that if you are struggling with any mental health issue or even a mental illness, there isn't anything wrong with you. Similar to our bodies physically, our body, it's a system. So there's glitches often, right? And we see that with smaller medical conditions to, unfortunately, bigger medical conditions. It happens. Our body, it goes through glitches sometimes. So similar to our body, our mind, it's a machine. And as I've mentioned before, it's a working machine. There are going to be lows. We're going to go through struggles. So there is nothing wrong with you if you are going through some struggles mentally. The stigma that we have surrounding mental health, especially in the South Asian and Indo-Fijian community, it's unfortunately still very, very prevalent. And to that, what I would like to say is, a lot of times if we express ourselves that we're feeling a little low or we're having these certain feelings or thoughts, we're looked at as crazy or there must be something wrong with this person. But in reality, as I've just said, our mind is a working machine, and there's nothing wrong if we experience those things. So please, to the parents out there, to the friends, to the partners, to the grandparents, please, if your loved one comes to you saying that they're feeling these ways and they're not sure how to go about it, please be supportive, be understanding, encourage them to go to therapy, encourage them to do something about it rather than just not doing anything and suppressing their feelings and emotions and then having it fester later on and blow up in unhealthy ways. So please be that supportive system, that support system that that individual needs. Do not turn them away or put them down for it, because again, it's normal. I think that's one of the worst feelings, when you're going through something that is normal and you're made to feel like it's abnormal, because it's not. And so you should not feel like that. So going back to therapy, there are many ways that, nowadays, especially unions and companies, they offer many benefits to help cover costs of therapy.
In other news, Canadian Federation of Fiji Organizations is hosting their first ever Community Awards Gala on October 24th at Kanna Banquet Hall in Surrey. Doors open at 12 noon, and tickets are on sale for $30, or you can purchase a table of 8. Tickets are selling fast, and they're almost sold out, so be sure to contact me at 778-709-2853 or Vidya Sharma at 604-941-6427 to get your tickets today. If you're celebrating any special events, such as birthdays or your graduation, please send us that information, and we'd be more than happy to share it with here on our show. Also, if you're organizing any events in our community, you can send that information to us at vitivibestv@gmail.com. We ran out of time for this episode, but we hope you enjoyed it as much as I did bringing it to you. You can watch new episodes of Viti Vibes on Shaw Multicultural channel every Thursday at 10 p.m. and the reruns on Sundays at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Or, if you're Mountain Standard Time, you can watch Thursdays at 11 p.m. and Sundays at 5:30 p.m. We also upload all of our shows online to our YouTube channel called Viti Vibes. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and make sure to share the videos with your friends and family. No show is complete without sponsors, so if you want to sponsor this youth show for the Fijian community, then please feel free to call our producer Camilla at 604-537-5123. Before I leave, I'll leave you here with these thoughts by the Dalai Lama. From the day we're born, the need for human affection is in our very blood. Even if the affection comes from an animal or someone we would normally consider an enemy, both children and adults will naturally gravitate toward it. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all here next time. In the meantime, put on your mask and stay safe out there. I'm your host, Shannon Pramal, signing off.
Let's go. All out of state, so the day they never seen that. Ain't fat, Joe, and snap your fingers, then you lean back. All out of state, so the day they never seen that. Ain't fat, Joe, and snap your fingers.